everybody, and welcome to LHC Gun Porn Edition. We're gonna talk about all of the amazing guns.
Actually, do you know what? We should just not mention guns whatsoever and see if we can get the whole way through Gale Online without it.
Well, you can't even say the name of the game then, or the bad guy.
Oh god, Death
DG.
Okay, so yes, assuming we all know the plot of Gale Online, so we're not going to fully recap it. But do you know what? It's so quick to recap, and I think that's part of the problem with the third arc of Sword Art is that the actual plot is so quick. It's essentially just guy from government says, "Hey, Kirito, there appears to be a guy who's able to kill people within a game. Maybe you could investigate because you've got, gamey skills." And Kirito goes, "Yeah, I can't think of anything that might be triggery or flashbacky or problematic about that. I'll do that." Kirito goes into there and goes, so maybe I should join this tournament. Kirito gets to the end of the tournament, finds the guy. The guy turns out to be a Laughing Coffin member. Who would have guessed? And then he works out who he is in real life and he gets arrested. Done.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's basically it.
Gale is kind of like a condensed version of Sword Art Online. In general, it's there's the threat of death in the game. There's Kirito going into it to sort things out from being like like having advanced skills for various reasons. He meets a lady who falls in love with him, who he helps get over her personal trauma.
Yeah,
and it's just like cramming it all into with a different set of stuff. And as always, one of the bad guys turns out to be a guy who wants to possess said lady. In this case, Shion.
And also touch her while she's unconscious.
Yep. Well, yeah, but he also wants to just do like a double suicide kill thing or what have you.
Yeah. So, I agree with you, actually. That's a really great way of putting it, that this is essentially the first arc, but with everything worse.
Yeah.
Again, really. Because it's more wasted potential than the first series was, and it's worse pacing as well, and it's just all the convoluted bullshit as well that happens.
Oh, like how it works as well, because of course they don't actually kill someone in the game. The whole twist is they shoot someone and synchronize it with murdering them in real life.
Yeah, by breaking into their homes because they've all got the same alarm system or something like that. But so we're just going to look at a few of the things that are really, really problematic in this series. So the first one I would say is the pacing, in that this series is really uninterested in actually you enjoying the world. So it spends so much time with them either standing around and talking, and then it comes to this whole tournament where, do you know what's going to happen is Kirito's going to join a tournament and we're going to get a montage of him competing.
Yeah.
That's it. You will literally get a montage of him competing, and then the one you actually see in full is when he's fighting Shinon, who is the sniper who, as we said, inevitably falls in love with him. And that's the only one you see in full, and that has barely any actual, interesting action. It's essentially mostly them talking about each other or to each other before he wins.
Yeah.
Because
Kirito.
Because Kirito, exactly. So, firstly, much like Alfheim Online, Kirito turns up in this game, and because we can't have the Sword Art thing of maybe he got good over time. Nope. He just transfers his character and instantly is game-breakingly powerful because of his already existing sword skills.
Yeah, it's just his sword skills. No, it's not his stats.
Oh, no. I know he doesn't get to keep stats or anything, but it is a case of he just goes into this world. And again, because he doesn't have to really learn to be any good, because we don't have the time, because it wouldn't be that he can turn up and learn something, or we get a new character who can teach people or anything like that. No, he's just going to turn up, and exactly like Suzuha, he's going to meet a woman within 2 minutes who he's going to ask for help, who then falls in love with him and teaches him everything he needs to know about this new game. Right? Now, the thing, you remember I said that Sword Art has this thing where it gets worse every series about bullshit coincidences. So with Suzuha, like I say, there's at least this whole... They've got the same IP address, so it's sort of reasonable that they would meet up. There is nothing reasonable about the fact that Kirito transfers into the game in order to meet... he transfers into the game in order to find who is Death Gun, the guy who's killing people in the game. At which point, he meets absolutely by chance, Shinon. No in-game reason, nobody introduces them, nobody has anything about how this person is like the one who's already hunting Death Gun or anything like that. It is literally someone off the street he meets, and it just happens to turn out that that's the one player in the whole world that Death Gun is targeting, and that actually goes to school with Death Gun and is like friends with Death Gun, and Death Gun wants her specifically. He basically just walks into Death Gun's love interests thing. It's complete shit. And it doesn't make any fucking sense. There's no in-game reason or in-story reason this time why Shinon actually knows him. If he'd done research and said, these are the people being targeted. That one's already dead. That one's already dead. These two live in America, so they're unlikely to be targeted. So the only one left in Japan is, this sniper called Shinon. I better go and talk to her and befriend her. Fine. Do you know what? That would have worked. But not. He walks up randomly to a woman in the game, and it turns out that happens to be the next victim. Complete bollocks.
Well,
so, yeah.
It does make sense that he would eventually meet Shinon, because he's there to stop Death Gun, and he has to go into the tournament, which will cause the issue, and...
which, as I say, is fine. Meet her in the lobby.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I understand what you mean, but it doesn't feel like that big an ask to me. But, yeah. Because otherwise we have no story.
Really, of all the players that he could log into, and all the players that actually help him within the first minute. You know how many people play this game? It's ridiculously huge amounts. It just so happens that she's the next victim. That she's the one who knows Death Gun personally.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Knows Death Gun personally. It does seem a bit sort of. It's like who is the murderer? Oh, it's the one other character you were introduced to. It was Shion's friend. So yeah, that is a bit. But still,
no, I'm not gonna let that one go at all. It's complete crap. But like I say, and it's so easily fixable, because it really is just a case of, so what do we know about Death Gun? Well, he's targeting players, and he's targeting players in Japan, in the Tokyo area, who are in the top 10 at every tournament. Well, who are the next 10 seeded? Here are the list. There's only one or two options. Fine, okay. You've got that one who dies and is the one to prove it's real, because they get killed in front of Kirito. And then the next one on the list is her. Again, that's the way he can actually go and talk to her and go, hey, so there's a list. There were only two people on it. He was the person on it, and now he's dead. So now the list is literally you. I better hang out with you and protect you. And that's why we're going to know each other. That's fine. Absolutely fine. But not this bullshit of, I just walked into you because you were the first person I fucking saw. So the second thing is, they don't, for a show that really loves guns, because it does. It's really, like, this whole game is about, guns are amazing. Like, the first series isn't swords amazing. Sword Art Online is all, oh my god, swordsmanship, isn't it great?
Really?
Second game introduces magic and flying. No, I'm saying,
I don't think
within world.
Well, even then, it's called Sword Art Online, but no,
Who uses anything other than a sword in Sword Art? There's swords and shields, and that's about it. Nobody really uses anything else. Certainly not any major characters. There's a...
Agril?
Well... I suppose I'll give you. There's a
Agil.
few like spears or pole arms or things like that, but it's basically melee and shield is the main thing in Sword Art Online.
I don't think that the game, the TV show or the novel fetishizes swords.
Not in any way.
It doesn't really do it with
guns
guns either. Like that's just like a thing of what tools people use in the game. I don't think it loves them.
All right, fine. But the thing is, so he comes in, and again, the same with Alfheim, where he didn't actually really learn much magic, and he didn't really utilise it. He just sort of came in and sworded everyone.
Yeah.
Because again, in the third one, he doesn't have time to get gun at Gun Gale. So
get gun at Gun Gale.
Yeah, he doesn't have time, but which means that he's just going to have to use his sword skills, because that's the thing. It's a case of, if you were looking to get someone to investigate this, you might possibly have approached maybe someone who already knew how to play the damn game. But no, he turns up and he's just like, a light sword, that'll work. And it turns out that it both exists and is capable of like cutting bullets out of the air, and he can be super... His sword skills seem to just massively jump up to make him able to play Gun Gale as well. Like, I get that you're used to fighting people who are going to take swings at you and you might be able to block multiple things at multiple angles, but bullets, I know you're getting the trajectory lines beforehand, but still, the amount of bullets that he seemingly can block from like an Uzi is a bit weird.
The idea that they give in the novel isn't that he spent so long fighting the really hard monsters of Sword Art Online that he can do it without even the sight lines, because his whole situation is that he fought these monsters where you always have to look at their body language.
Yeah.
And everything. So he to him it seems really obvious where everyone's going to shoot. He basically becomes Vamp in Metal Gear Solid 2.
But this is the thing. It might be obvious where they're going to shoot from their body language, and you can just about judge the trajectory from an Uzi. But if someone is spraying that amount of bullets, you're not likely to block all of them. There are quite a few times where he's just able to run at a person firing wildly at him, and he blocks every single one with his sword.
But he doesn't need to block every single one if they're firing wildly at him. I always remember the story that my grandfather told me, which is when you have your sidearm drawn and you're trying to shoot someone in like a difficult situation, the ideal furthest distance is perhaps a foot away. Anything further than that, you probably won't hit them.
Yeah.
Because of how ridiculous. But anyway, this is a video game. It's the thing. I'm fine with that because it's a video game. You need to.
All right, fine. Yeah, it's a bit of a that he just gets given a sword and then is told swords can work, so you're fine.
Yeah.
But again, I don't really mind that, because again, if you're going to keep Kirito as a character and you're going to have him and you don't have time, fine. You know what? But what really does bother me is that they just montage the tournament. The tournament was probably the most interesting thing, and it could seriously have been great to have him like go up against all of the. I suppose I just wanted a shonen show. Where everyone goes up against each other in a tournament and... this guy uses big guns. It's going to be difficult because he's got a rocket launcher, which is not something you can sword out of the air and things like that. And then finally he goes up against a sniper who is Shinon, and that would be really interesting. And I just think that could have been a much better series if we'd have watched, him moving his way up through the tournament properly rather than just montaging occasionally him jumping and slashing at people, which was, one thing.
What happened in the anime is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, so, slightly different for the novel.
Well, the novel just skips it entirely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just does things that are relevant.
Yeah. So, again, that feels like a bit of a waste there. And again, the Shinon falls in love with him stuff annoys me as well, just because...
Why can't they just be friends?
Yeah, exactly. It's just sort of a bit of nonsense.
You're not making me believe that this isn't like... I mean, I'm fine with like a fantasy thing, but this is getting weird. This is getting weird stuff. So the way that a lot of these other isekai similar-esque shows, even though I don't think Sword Art Online is really an isekai, but that sort of feeling of this one arguably very boring guy. at least Kirito has pathos, which is nice. He's got like trauma, and he's like clearly not very good at relating to people and everything, compared to the other characters that got popular in this sort of focus where they're just obnoxious and get all the girls anyway.
Well, do you know what I think is that Kirito managed to learn how to edit source code, and he gave himself an aura skill, and that is aura of love. Anyone who spends any time with me within 3 meters falls in love with me if they are character class female. Which is bullshit. Yeah. But it does seem to be what happens.
Yeah.
So
apart from one character in a later story arc. Yui.
He's not in that though.
He is there. He did fight her.
One fight and then he buggered off. All right, maybe.
Anyway, back to Gun Gale. So yeah.
Anyway,
so
back
like
to
I
Gun
said,
Gale. So
it also kind of falls flat because of. There are some genuine good attempts, I think, maybe with the character of Shion to give her like appropriate pathos in that she's by any standards a hero. She saved people from a robbery.
Oh yeah, but the trauma and everything.
But she's got horrible trauma from actually killing another human being, and also she's ostracized because of that.
Yeah,
which everyone I think it's deliberately done. I don't think it would really happen in real life. I think or maybe it would. No, I'm not licensed to comment on that. But it does seem like.
Well, in my view is that people are gonna find a reason to make fun of someone for bullies will always find something, and it doesn't matter if you have nothing, they will find
I forgot about the bullying.
Even if they make it up. So the fact that she is basically bullied for this thing, no, they bully her about anything.
Yeah. I wasn't talking about
that's
them.
The most obvious.
I was just talking about the fact that she feels ostracized from everyone else. It's like everyone else says, "Oh, don't go near her." That she had to change schools because she was the girl that murdered somebody.
I think that was largely because her mother never looked at her the same way again, so they had to send her to her grandparents because they hadn't watched this small child shoot someone. And I can kind of get the mother couldn't really see the daughter in the same way. I don't have kids, but, I think that's unlikely, but it's possible. And then putting with the grandparents would mean she'd have to change schools.
Well, no, it doesn't matter about it's possible. It just needs to, perform a narrative utility. And this actually does. This is the thing. Shion does work out, apart from how does she overcome her trauma. And she overcomes her trauma by being embarrassed in front of Kirito and being saved by Kirito. That's how she overcomes her problem.
I know. And that's the thing is,
she does stand up for herself.
I like her as a character. I like when she stands up for herself to the bullies. I like how it's this and that. But I really just wish it hadn't have been Kirito runs in and saves her.
Yeah.
If it had been she works it out and then in real life she has to do what she did as a kid with agency this time and not just, a kid not really knowing what was going on. She realizes, oh my God, it is stupid creepy guy and realizes it's him and then maybe not has to kill him, but actually could do, if she makes a conscious decision in self-defense or whatever.
I mean, if we're going in hypotheticals, if she kills someone, that's her regressing. We want her to make progress, and the one thing is that despite the fact that it's done purely by being, a focus of Kirito, she at least makes progress. She cuts out bad parts of her life. It's look, you've learned a bit of basic writing. Good on you, sir. That's what's nice about it. It's like,
No, it is better. She's the new Suzuha, and she's much better.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's still not good because it's focused entirely on, her achieving this through Kirito, and like I said, the framing of especially the anime is let's leer at this traumatized child. Let's also sexually objectify this traumatized child, and also doing the thing that I didn't notice when this was happening in anime, but I notice it a lot more now. Using a character's embarrassment as an excuse to sort of skirt by the sexual objectification on, look, we know it's bad, she's embarrassed about it, it was just a thing. You wouldn't stop other people from having embarrassing things, otherwise there wouldn't be anything to write about. And it's no, you're doing it just so that you can circumvent leering at her. Which they are still doing. Yeah, they are still doing that.
But no, going back to the Kirito, everything is through the eyes of Kirito. This is also the first major, and then it was Laughing Coffin, because this is where we have a flashback. We have a fucking flashback to a thing that never happened in the original Sword Arts, which is, do you remember when we all united to take out Laughing Coffin's headquarters? And do you remember how Kirito straight up murdered several people? No, I don't remember that. No, that happened. And there was that guy who was one of the guys in Laughing Coffin who, for some reason, really connected with Kirito and really made a lasting impression on him. And you go, really? Because you would have thought he'd have mentioned that by now. But, all right, fine. But and then it turns out that of all the people, like I say, it's that thing. In the first series, we're with Kirito and he turns out to be the one who fixes and solves everything. That's fine, because you're basically, if he wasn't going to eventually do that, we wouldn't be following him. We'd be following Egil, who eventually did that, or, any of the other ones. But with this one, it is just a case of, I'm sorry, and you've asked Kirito to investigate this crime, and it just so happens Kirito has a personal connection with this guy from Laughing Coffin.
Yeah.
No, that's complete bullshit. It's just it's fine that he's from Laughing Coffin, and you can even say, do you remember that guy in Laughing Coffin who always used this weapon? Yeah, I do remember him. He was in that big fight when we took out the thing. Have a flashback. You don't need Kirito to have had a stare down with him and a fight where he just about got away and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I also think if Kirito's murdered several people, he should probably have had some sort of mention of it in the past.
Yeah. No, they got exonerated. There was a thing that's mentioned in the... a thing that's mentioned in one of the
I don't
novels.
mean criminally. I mean psychologically.
Oh, right, yeah. No, he carries that with him forever, I thought that was the thing, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it would have come up before now.
Oh, right, yeah.
Really?
That he's killed 3 people or something, yeah.
Yeah, that he did do that. I mean, it was kind of a major deal at the time, I'm pretty sure,
Oh, yeah.
But, And it's a thing of, if you actually, the original Sword Art, he doesn't actually kill anyone in the whole thing. And even, when it gets to, what's his name? The Akihiko, the guy who set up the whole thing, he kills himself.
Yes. Mm.
It's not that Kirito beats him that kills him. It's that he chooses to die himself. He kills himself for all the shit he did to all the people he locked into sword arts. But just going back to Gun Girl, it's just sort of annoying again that random convoluted bullshit coincidence means that it's this guy is this person who does this. And also, you do think if you had the server data from Sword Art, I know it sort of deletes itself, but you knew vaguely who was in Laughing Coffin and you'd have a list of suspects. You wouldn't necessarily need Kirito to go in. You could just put people under surveillance because it's obviously someone from Sword Arts that's doing this and murdering people. You know, I'm just... It's finding reasons for Kirito to be involved get a bit stretched here, but I suppose it's within reason that he would have been sent in to check this, especially if you're going to keep him in, you know, a secure area in a hospital rather than allowing him to be at home where he's dying without any medical help. But no, I think Gun Gale Online was a drastic improvement from the second arc, but I do think it just really missed a trick with not having the tournament and having all this sort of convoluted bullshit and forcing it all to be revolving around Kirito rather than just having like Shinon being a major deal. Like, you really could have had it so that she knew the guy in real life fine, and that was sort of her arc about him sort of coming onto her, and then her, you know, getting her own agency to beat him and not shoot him and all the rest of it. And you didn't and you could have had Kirito facing off against the older one, fine, but the fact that Kirito just turns up and saves her in every reasonable point just is a bit annoying.
Yeah. It is. And it is, at the least, the one good thing I did remember about the novel when I first read it is it was appropriately scary in putting you in Shion's position, thinking about being in the Gun Gale Online when someone is probably just outside waiting to poison you.
Yeah, I do remember that. Like, it was a case of, he's in your house, by the way. Like, she realises when she's in the game that the guy is probably sitting next to her with poison poised to stab her. That genuinely would be terrifying. Like, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but you know the thing where you wake up but you're not fully awake so that
sleep
your body
paralysis,
doesn't move.
Yeah.
Yes, sleep paralysis. That's horrifically scary. And when I first read this, I was like, God, it's like sleep paralysis a bit, that you know something's just out the corner of your eye that wants to hurt you, but you can't look and you can't get it, and they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, Shinon, he's in your room. If you log out, he'll kill you. If you get killed in the game, he'll kill you.
Yeah.
Deal with that. Deal with the emotional stress of that.
Well, no, that's what I liked about it. It's just saying that wouldn't work, but I think that, at least in the translation I read, it was very good at, like, upping the horror of that, and I thought, it's actually a good bit of atmosphere. So, you know, here we are, a few good bits shining through. See, we can say good things about Sword Art.
No, like I said, I do think that the problem I have with Gun Gale is it's the worst parts of Sword Art, such as the skipping everything that's interesting, not pacing it properly, focusing too much on all the women falling in love with Kirito rather than having their own plot lines or arcs fulfilling without him being involved, and just kind of having to tie everything back and coincidences mounting up. They're the sort of... There's the problems with it, but it is a drastic improvement on Alfheim. It did bother me that I watched it and I just went, this could have been so good, but at best you can sort of give it a 3 out of 5. But it could have been really excellent. And I think that was the major gripe with it. As I said before, it's the whole wasted potential annoys me more than things that are just outright bad.
Exactly. So like I said, yeah, wasted potential, as you said when we began, that was the problem. Gun Gale Online sets us up for a sort of status quo where everyone's hanging around in Alfenheim for a while, and that we have a few sub-stories in that, which we actually have time to go into, because I don't want to go into them too much, but Mother's Rosario, which I am always very conflicted about.
You don't want to use this for an entire episode?
No, I don't think it's worth an entire episode, because I want to get to the bit that you actually wanted to talk to this whole thing about.
Yeah,
so
Alicization.
So we can cover Alice Rosario as well, because it's nice as a story, because it focuses on Asuna. It focuses on Asuna having a solid emotional attachment to someone other than Kirito.
Kirito's barely in
Yeah.
it. That's what I would say was quite good.
Yeah.
Although, admittedly, if you're talking about the anime rather than the manga or the light novel, oh my god, did they slash the budget for this arc?
Yeah, it's much less movement and everything. It doesn't look as nice. It had some interesting things because this is after they had like an add-on to Elfenheim that added Einklard, the now flying steel castle, sort of like, which should really be renamed Welcome to re-triggering all your post-traumatic
Welcome
distress.
to PTSD.
Yeah. But it seems everyone's having
ridiculous.
fun. I love the bit in the novel that I read where they said, oh, and all the bosses, because it's not deadly, all the bosses in this version are way harder than they were in the original Einklad, which is like, what the F? And
also, as we previously discussed, Einklad, terrible game.
It's a terrible game.
The fact that there's only one time you can beat the bosses. I mean, that's part of the whole point of Mother's Rosario,
Everyone
is that whoever beats the bosses
for the
goes
first
down
time.
onto that tablet.
For the first time. People can go back and beat the bosses, and yeah, they want to just get the honour of beating a boss for the first time.
Yeah, but instead of a 40-man raid, they need a 6-person raid.
And it is good, but at the same time, it is capitalising on one of the worst things that you always have to be really careful of, which is like sick children sort of exploitation for emotional gain. So like Yuri, the new character who's really cool and gets along well with Asuna, is also really sick, and she dies, and it's all just sort of like wallowing in that sort of sadness. And it also picks like a disease. It's sort of like straight out of the friggin' Captain Planet thing.
I do remember.
Yeah.
I was not sure whether you were going to bring this up, but
Yeah.
I was. Just the fact that I remember watching this and I was like, oh, so she's sick and dying. Well, I've watched enough anime to know she's dying of anime disease. And the doctor walks in and goes, she has AIDS.
It's like, what? It's not, because sometimes it's just a wasting illness. I remember Clannad, where there's a character who's about to die and she just has generic, I'm ill. Or what they love is, they do love congenital heart problems, like thinning of the heart muscle wall. They love that because that's symbolic. But no, straight up autoimmune deficiency.
Yep, it's just straight up. The doctor just is like, yep, she got AIDS.
And it's like, whoa, did I fall into South Park all of a sudden?
Yeah, exactly. And then they go into this whole thing of like, just to clarify, I want to talk to you for 5 minutes about how she got AIDS.
Yeah, because this is the always thing that really horrifies me, is people who don't have this disease seem to find it really important to know how someone got it.
Yeah, so they have to have this 5-minute shutdown of everything. It's like, what? You mean she's got AIDS? Yes. But let me tell you how. Well, she got it from her mother, who had AIDS while she was pregnant, and therefore she got it when she was born, and, you know.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of horrifying because I do get the feeling that there are certain people who get AIDS. It's like I forget if it's Brass Eye or the Day to Day, but it's like that Chris Moyles sketch of you've got bad AIDS instead of good AIDS.
Yes, I was literally about to quote that one. It's a case of, wait, did you get bad AIDS or good AIDS? What? Well, was this from like a blood transfusion, or was this bad AIDS?
Yeah.
Is this kind of your fault?
So that's the thing. That's what the story stops to say. It stops to sort of not really just explain AIDS, but also say, by the way, it's good AIDS.
It's good AIDS. It's good AIDS. You don't have to in any way judge her or dislike the character. Also, yeah.
And just the way it sort of stares at her illness and, you know, and everything, and like how she can't, and how she like literally dies in front of Asuna, and it's like, oh my god, this is just so exploitative for something that a lot of people have had to go through, and everything.
Yeah, I know, and
it's sadder now that I have had to do that now. So it's like, no, learn context.
Well, the other thing being, right, so being a bit more positive.
Yeah,
though,
being positive.
It would have been nice if he'd picked generic wasting disease or something, maybe. But the thing that was really positive about this arc, I felt that was him developing as an author, was firstly, I don't remember anyone getting molested in this arc.
Yeah, no one got. There was no random evil molesters. The only bad guys were jerks who also wanted the.
Yeah, they were just glory thieves who were playing underhandedly.
Yeah.
Which is, fair enough. But the other thing being that Asuna is the main character.
Yeah.
Kirito pretty much isn't in it. Like, Kirito is occasionally there as an emotional rock for Asuna, and he's wise old Kirito, though.
Yes, wise,
it's just like, Kirito fights Yuri and goes, I know everything now, and just walks away, and Asuna goes, what do you know? He goes, I think it would be better for the plot if you discovered this in a more speaking to the listeners and readers way.
Yeah.
Rather than just me, who knows it instinctively because our swords clashed once, and that was a big deal in this sort of show.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So I like the fact Kirito takes a back seat. I like the fact that neither Yui nor any of her friends fall in love with Kirito, although I do think they respect him quite a lot when it's brought up or something.
Yeah.
But either way, that's at least fine and reasonable. So no, it's nice that it's about Asuna. It's a shame there's no budget whatsoever left in the coffers to animate the damn thing. But overall, it's actually quite a nice arc, and it does sort of... I know it kind of hits you with the emotions in the most, dying children sort of obvious ways, but it is kind of still emotional when, Yui does die.
Oh, yeah, because we like the character, yeah. That's the thing.
Exactly,
She's a really charming character because she's, just fun.
And the other thing I'd like is that they actually say, hey, do you know this VR technology? It's not just used to edit people's memories, create super soldiers, lock people into games, or entertainment. It's also medical uses.
Yeah, exactly.
And you go,
to help.
oh my god, someone's actually noticed how ridiculously great this would be for people who were locked in or had major disabilities about movement or functionality.
Exactly.
You've noticed. Well done. But I like this arc, I do. Although I never know what to call it, because it's Mother's Rosary or Mother Rosario, depending on whether you look at the anime title or the manga or the light novel.
Yeah, I always called it Mother's Rosario, but yeah, it is supposed to be Rosary, because that's what it is. That's what her special move is. It's like the counting down of rosary beads.
Yeah. And, so yeah, that was quite... So the second part of the Sword Art 2 anime is mostly this Mother's Rosario or Mother's Rosary, but it also has there's also one other short one, which is essentially a sub quest in Alfheim.
Isn't it to get Excalibur, yeah?
Yeah, it's just this thing of, there was this secret quest that nobody knows about, that it's all, you can do this, if you do this and you do that and you fight this monster and you save this monster and then this monster does this and you come back the next day and then you can do this and do... And again, with no stakes whatsoever, all you're really doing with this arc is pointing out how Alfheim's kind of a shitty, boring game. I know we already went into in quite a lot of depth why Aincrad and Sword Art Online is a terrible game, but also I do think, the people who program in those sort of ones, I mean, the sheer ridiculous nonsense you have to do to get this quest to even happen, and it's not like it's even in a quest log or anything, it's this sort of stuff is sort of reasonable in a fantasy world, but the minute it's a game and you're like, someone's had to program this, game developers don't tend to spend that amount of time programming stuff and then have nobody ever find out it's there.
There's a big thing where everyone always says in games development conferences, the whole thing is we got to make sure everyone actually sees all of the game. If you don't, you're wasting money. You're wasting...
Yeah. Because you really are. It's like that thing when everyone's just like, oh yeah, but what if Bigfoot was a secret thing in GTA 5? People have spent hours trawling in GTA games looking for Bigfoot in either San Andreas or GTA 5, and they didn't program Bigfoot in. And if they had programmed Bigfoot in, they'd have spent a fair bit of money programming and developing and, just designing the model, getting someone to do the artwork. You'd have someone find it.
Yeah, you'd want someone to find it.
You just would.
Yeah.
There's no point in spending all that time. And it's it's just this thing of if there's a secret mission, so you've got to do all these things to unlock this secret mission, at the very least, you'd tell people. You'd have an interview with one of the developers or one of the leads of the game in a magazine where they were like, well, it's been 2 years and nobody's found Excalibur yet. Looks like we hit that one really well. Winks at audience. And then the whole of the game would just be like, oh my god, there's actually Excalibur in here. How do we do that? And then the guy might give a slight hint about how to start the quest, and then people would be looking. But no, nobody's going to make such a huge quest to get such a legendary item and then never mention it or have any internal signposting whatsoever. It's just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
It's also... I know I made the complaint about the budget being lower in the Mother's Rosario. This is the arc where the budget is so low, several fight scenes are still frames.
Yeah.
I think they fight a dragon at one point and it's literally a still image they're just panning across. it's just there's no stakes because it's literally to find a game item.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with that. If they really want the game item, it makes sense. But the fact that it came out of nowhere and it wasn't even hinted at, whereas in the novels it is, because in the novels there's this really boring part where Kirito and Leifa get a monster to sort of quasi-like them, and it takes them on a unique route, and it saves them some time, and they have a very tearful parting where people kill it, or whatever. But Kirito also sees Excalibur, and he essentially goes... I think he even goes in the narration, well, if I ever come back, I'll get that, because my gaming sense wants me to get the rare loot.
Yeah. But it just... I don't know, after everyone's... The first arc is we're all going to die because we're trapped in a game. If we
indeed. It always feels a bit off if the next one.
The second one, it's you've kidnapped my girlfriend and 300 other people. I mean, I'm not really going to talk about them or think about them, but they are kidnapped. And we're going to find out what you're doing and we're going to stop you from destroying their brains and editing their memories. Then the third one is, and there's a serial killer on the loose who's murdering people. And then the fourth one is, okay, so... I'm afraid that this young girl is dying and we want to make her have a nice, memory before she goes, and she just wants her legacy and she's really nice. And then the next bit is just, also, I want some pixels to be a sword and maybe a bit of a thing in this game. There's nothing. There's no stakes. There's no nothing. No
those are stakes. Those are stakes. The desire to have it are, but it just feels inadequate.
It
placed
feels
alongside.
so inadequate.
But if you care about, like, say, Klein, because Klein's the one who gets the sword in the end, doesn't it?
I honestly don't remember. It's been...
Well, no, yeah, it wasn't very good.
That little
but I'm just
impression
saying, like,
on my brain.
We can't, like, always be mean and say, oh, because it's not life or death, it's not good stakes anymore. I think that there was, like, a way you could have managed it. But yeah, this arc doesn't manage it.
This arc is filler.
Yeah.
It really, it just pads the episode count.
Yeah.
And what really annoyed me is that when I watched Gun Gale, I was like, this needs more episodes. This could really have done with at least a few more episodes. And then you watch this little arc where he's getting this bloody sword and you go, these episodes. It needed these episodes. This is where the Gun Gale expansion should have been. We'll knock through and we'll build the extension in this area here. Yeah,
rather than at the end where it's like, oh, I wonder what will happen if they fought that boss.
Yeah.
Which actually, like I said, even if you go and look at it, it doesn't even look fun if you think of it as something that could have been a game.
Yeah, it looks like a boring thing.
Yeah.
But also, if they'd done, like, okay, so we'll put a load of budget into making a really awesome fighting a dragon scene, I reckon they'd have got away with it.
Yeah.
If the boss had been like, you remember the original Sword Art arc where they fought the dragon, floor bosses?
Oh yeah.
The floor bosses, they were really well-animated fights that had a lot of power and intent, and it was really cool. But in this, nah, let's not bother. Let's just have no real... There's basically nothing to recommend this little mini arc at all.
Yeah. No, yeah, this little short arc, it's not that fun, especially when you have it next to the other stuff and it feels like dry. The only reason to see it is perhaps see Shion now as an archer. But even then, like I said, I don't like how they always keep on embarrassing Shion, and that being the only thing she does.
Yeah, which isn't great.
Okay. So, that is everything up until the Alicization arc, I think, isn't it?
It is, with the exception of the movie, which I didn't even know existed until I was just skimming the Wikipedia for this show to do a bit of research before this podcast. And then I said to my partner, "Oh, should we watch the film? We've never watched the film." And I glanced at the synopsis and it starts off with, Sugaha has never learned how to swim. Asuna and Kirito decide to teach her. And we went, no. That is a waste of my life and yours. I'm just going to move on with our things.
I don't even think it's available on anything.
I think it's on Crunchyroll now, but I don't know. I didn't even know it existed, but I'm pretty sure when I went on to Sword Art, it was somewhere online.
It is interesting because it's not the same. It's an augmented reality game instead of a VR game.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing, but that's deliberately created because augmented reality games in real life were getting popular at that time.
If you want a decent augmented reality game anime, isn't that... What's it called? The one that we saw at university.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Coil.
Coil.
Yes. In fact, that's the thing that
good,
we can.
Wasn't it?
That's the thing that we can end on. Go to Japan and buy find the Blu-rays for hundreds and hundreds of dollars of Den-O Coil, because it didn't make a lot of money, and it wasn't that popular in Japan. But it's really good. You should totally see. You should totally watch it. I think it was released in America. I think it might have been released just in America, or the people are still clamoring for it even years later. Don't watch Sword Art Online.
The moral of Arc 2 was read the Iliad, and the moral of Gale Online is we should all just watch Den-O Coil.
We absolutely should.